Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Matthew White's channel. Today we are returning to the My Favorite LJN tournament. We are on round 1, part 37. So, it looks like about every 12 episodes or so, I've decided to start moving around the room, kind of give you a different backdrop. Now, generally, I like to stay on that side of the room because it generally gives you the best lighting. So, I'm just kind of looking in the camera right now, and it does kind of look darkened in this bit of the corner of the room, but I like doing it this way because it really does give the viewers different shots of the room, different aspects, and it gives you the opportunity to look at different parts of the collection as well. So 37th episode. Oh man, I estimate that these are down to the last 4 episodes before round 1 is completed. What to talk about before we dive into today's episode? Really, in all honesty, not a whole lot. I talked about, I don't remember when, a few days ago I mentioned there was a seller in California that I bought a couple of the Jack's Classics, Jack's Bone Crunching figures, the Superstar line, Series 1, which included Bret Hart and Goldust. Bought it mint on card. I finally did get it in the mail after almost 2 weeks since the time of purchase, and they didn't send me Bret Hart and Goldust. I got Diesel and Goldust. Well, I already have Diesel mint on card, so that one was a wash. So now I got to go through the returns process, and that's always annoying. Even if I do get the Bret Hart figure eventually, kind of, and I might be wrong, but I gotta be honest. I kind of feel like anytime somebody does something like this, not every time, not 100% of the time, because mistakes happen. Especially if you're a big business. He mentioned about sending this package back to a warehouse and not this person's physical address. So it is possible that somebody just simply grabbed the wrong item, but why are you selling the same items on auction if you're not keeping track of the right items? And I find it kind of odd that you're sending me 2 superstars, but you grabbed the wrong character. So, I mean, how many people are buying multiple figures from you from that particular line on auction or what have you? So, no. I think that the guy was just simply dissatisfied that I won the auction for like $31, because you look at eBay and those figures are selling $60, $70. Some people might list it for like $100. So yeah, I think they just want me to do a cancellation so that they can relist the item or something. And I hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to think negatively about people like that. But I think enough of us, especially when you've been collecting for a while and you've had enough transactions, you're going to run into people who operate that way. It sucks. There was original San Francisco toy makers, and I want to say probably 2021. I won multiple auctions on some figures, and I probably spent a good $120, $150 on over a course of like 3 different packages of figures, and they ended up being duplicates. Either I bought them and didn't realize I already owned them, or maybe I was bidding on them and I was bidding on some very similar items and I ended up winning multiple figures. I don't know, because that happens too. I eventually tried putting them on auction on my wife's account, trying to give her some money for her account, and I think they sold for like $20 a piece or something, or one sold for like 20, one sold for like 19, or one for 20. I think all in all, she got like $50. And I'm like, man, I want to cancel this order. I don't want to take a loss like that. Did I cancel? No. One thing, it's the right thing to do to send them their stuff. They want it fair and square. 2, it's my wife's account. I don't want to affect, her status and everything. And 3, when you put stuff on auction, it sucks, but that's the hand that you're dealt. You know, it's you're never guaranteed a price. You can say this item is worth $1,000. It might sell for $15. You can say this item is worth $15. It could sell for $1,000. It's luck of the draw type of deal. So there's that. There's also grapplers and gimmicks. Also, they're coming out with yet another British Bulldog. Now it's getting insane. I love grapplers and gimmicks. I think their figures are absolutely amazing. And one of my chief complaints about original San Francisco toy makers is when you actually look at their figures, and they're probably like my number 3 all-time favorite toy line, but they have maybe 10 characters. And anyone that collects, or you're interested in collecting original San Francisco, look them up. Look up and down the list of characters. There's like 10 or 12 different characters, and it's so you're releasing the same characters over and over again, series after series, and all you're doing is changing the color scheme of the figures, and it's annoying. Grapplers and gimmicks, they're basically doing the same thing over and over again, and it's frustrating. They're doing it, they've done it with Mabel and Mo 20,000 times. They're doing it with British Bulldog 10,000 times, and it's like, stop it. Smoke Train, they've done it with him multiple times. The Rougeaus, they've done it with them multiple times. It's like, okay. The Rougeaus I was okay with because it was like basically different tag teams of sorts. I was okay with that. Because you kind of made us a upgrade of sorts with Mabel, I was okay getting him a different character. Mo, fine. But no, it's just, it's annoying. I want to tell Mitch and the guys over at Grapplers and Gimmicks that, look, I love what you guys are doing. Keep up the great work. You basically got a lifelong customer in me, but at some point, even I, as a beloved customer and a huge fan of your work, even I might at one point say, hey, enough is enough. I mean, I don't want to stop collecting their stuff because I love their stuff. But, who was it? Oh man, but Cella Toys, what is his name? Something Knight. Do I have his figure over here? It's a good thing I'm sitting over here because that's his freaking name. Joey Knight. I don't know who Joey Knight is. He's apparently some kind of UK-based wrestler. But he has like 15 different figures. And I'm not even exaggerating with that number now. He has like 15 different figures and 15 different color schemes. And someone pointed out to me, you know what? You don't need all of the different variants. You get one, you're good. It's just marketing. It's just basically reutilizing the same character and changing the color because it's affordable to change the color scheme, and you're still charging the same price, and you're charging your customers upscale prices for something that you already have, making it seem like it's different. So I don't like that they keep doing that. The figures are great, no qualms whatsoever, but I'm gonna stop talking about that because I might just talk myself out of continuing to buy their stuff, and that's not gonna happen. I just if Mitch or one of the guys over at Grapplers and Gimmicks, if they ever like watch my videos, which I doubt it, but that's why when I talk about wanting to be like part of these little survey groups that, you know, because you have to have partition these little surveys, put a group of people together anytime Pepsi comes out with a new product, or new toy products come out, new food groups, what have you. You got to have someone to test it so that you can say, hey, what they like about what they don't like, and then the company can make necessary changes before it hits the market. I would love to be part of one of those groups because I got some things to say. Well, we can only make figures of people who we have signed. I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be the #1 go-to answer, but you don't need to keep coming out with 50 products a day, 50 products a year. You know what? If you want to have a set 5 characters or a set 12 figures and come out with one set every year, that's fine. Have a legitimate, have it set series by series, year by year. That's perfect. I'd rather wait a year and actually have the figures in hand than have to sit every couple months, have to buy a new set of figures, and basically have a dozen pre-orders out there because you keep coming out with new figures and you're repainting the same things over and over again. But how did I go? I did it again. How did I go off on that tangent about Hastel toys? I hate that I do that. I can never, for the life of me, I can never for the life of me remember. I go on these tangents and I completely forget what the original topic of discussion was. So when I try to backtrack and be like, go back to what I was talking about originally, I completely forget what it was. Oh man, that is a good one. That is a freaking good one. That is freaking too good. Do I want it? Do I want this matchup right now? Sucks. I mean, I just lost a great one in the last video, or the last tournament video, so alright, let's do it. Gloop 2-Up Sid Vicious versus Gray $1 Million Man. I already know which one I'm going to choose, but it's not a wash. Even if I know my answer, it doesn't make it a wash. It just means that I have my preference, but that is a great freaking figure, man. Bruno. And Bruno is going to square off against Stud Referee. Didn't we do Stud Referee? No. This is the Robert Jackson Stud Referee. And technically, that one is actually mine. But I'm giving him credit because he actually made it good. I'll explain when I get to it. I'm going to stop looking inside the bowl. Because now I kind of feel like I'm cheating. I'm not looking at the names, but I'm over here looking inside. So I'm going to stop that. Hogan White. So what the hell is Hogan White? Is that original white shirt Hogan? I'm telling you, when I write these names down, because there's just so many freaking figures, I didn't want to write off these huge descriptions because they were like so hard to like, just so much writing to come up with. But Hogan White versus Green $1 Million Man. Alright, alright, what's the last one? I'm taking my sweet ass time pulling these names today. God damn, I gotta speed up. George Steele versus Hawk Custom. Now, even though it just simply says Hawk Custom, that is not Random Treasures Hawk. That is one of the random seller Hawk Customs. The second video I filmed today, and I don't know, man. I'm just feeling out of it right now. I'm kind of exhausted a little bit. Plus, I made 3 videos the other day, so maybe I gotta take a break from filming for a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull these figures, guys, and we will get started. Alright, figures have been pulled, and let's get started. Alright, first matchup was Gray $1 Million Man versus Sid Vicious. Alright, this is the first matchup, and we will start with, wait a minute, I said gray, not green. My mistake. This is the matchup. Gray $1 Million Man. Apparently I'm colorblind now. But no, it is Gray $1 Million Man. So I actually have a Hasbro figure that looks like this. So I really enjoy this particular $1 Million Man. And you know, when I look at my custom wall and I see all of the different Series 5 styled Hogan figures, and I see all of the Roddy Pipers and all of the Brutus Beefcakes, and I think to myself, you know what, those are probably the figures that I have most in abundance. But man, I don't give enough credit to all of the different $1 Million Man figures. Even Honky Tonk Man has a pretty respectable amount of figures, but Andre the Giant, I mean, not all of them. I mean, you might have some that are Series 1 repaints. Some of them might be Series 2 repaints, but I've got a pretty nice balance of figures. I got a good chunk of different Ultimate Warriors, so yeah, there is a nice balance. The thing about $1 Million Man is, I don't think, just kind of looking at the wall here, I don't think there's a single bad $1 Million Man where I can sit there and say, you know what, there's a bona fide $1 Million Man that I love more than any of the other $1 Million Men. Once upon a time, I probably would have said that green suited $1 Million Man for Ram Treasures, for the simple fact that it's reminiscent to the Series 2 Hasbro, my favorite $1 Million Man figure from childhood, because it's a $1 Million Man figure I had from childhood. Regardless of which one you like, these are all incredible pieces. I might still kind of gravitate towards the white suit with probably like the purple getup and the glitter, except that really pops. Those colors really work. $1 Million Man. One of those moments that you really think like that's really effed up. Think about someone like, I believe her name was Sapphire, manager of Dusty Rhodes. And I don't know if they were in a relationship in real life. I doubt it. I think it was just, obviously, for show, for TV, for wrestling, for kayfabe, as I call it. But when $1 Million Man bought Sapphire, and when Dusty Rhodes kind of chased her down and was looking for her, and she abandoned him and never to be seen again, I'm like, that was freaking heartbreaking, because you see the pain in Dusty's eyes afterwards. Now there's discussion that Dusty Rhodes was a real life racist. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, depending on where he was born, the time period is, I'm sure that there might have been some preference, possibly, but I doubt it. I think Bad News Brown, I think in one of his shoot interviews, I think he said that he had some problems with Dusty in the past, but that's just the thing, though. I mean, you might have certain people you gravitate towards that you have a closer knit relationship with. That doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, they're racist towards one type of person or not. It just, It's just who you're most comfortable with. So, or maybe something was said, something was done, maybe something happened in the match, and they just never got over it. Just like in baseball, somebody hits a home run off a pitcher, and he slowly walks to first base, or he showboats or something. The next season, 5 seasons later, 10 years later, that pitcher squares off against that hitter again. He gets a damn fastball to the helmet. So, sports, people hold grudges, and those grudges last probably the course of a career. So, but $1 Million Man, I mean, the way that as a kid, the way he used to always throw his money around, it was like, you want to grow up and be this guy. Or Dave from Storage Wars. The type of guy that go out, buy a $5,000 storage locker, and then come back and buy the next storage locker for 10 grand and not even sweat a little bit, because he could take it back to his consignment shop and know that he could turn profit on that $25,000 that he just spent, and probably earn $60,000, $75,000 on the contents. So I wanted freaking Ted DiBiase money back in the day. I wanted that Dave from Storage Wars type money. It's a great figure. I've always enjoyed the figure. When I say that there are very few figures that I own that I would place higher than Sid Vicious, I've always said 17 figures. And I never counted these figures. I mean, it's not like as a kid I knew, hey, I have this many Hasbros, I have this many Galoob. No. I just probably counted these maybe 6 months ago, a year, I don't know. Damn spam calls. And I counted the figures I had. I'm like, okay, based on what I see here, I know I had this, I know I had this, I might have had this, I had this, bam. 17 figures from Hasbro, 7 from Galoob, bam. Yes, the Hasbro figures were the ones for that were enjoyable. Galoobs were just there, usually for Royal Rumbles, if I wanted to put together big 30-man Rumble matches or something. But Sid Vicious, irrelevant. If it was a one-on-one match, or if it was Royal Rumble, yeah, Sid Vicious was always one of my go-to figures. He just had the absolute perfect pose. And unlike the Hasbros, you knocked this guy off the table, you weren't holding your breath, thinking that, man, this guy was going to break, that his arm was going to break, or his fingers were going to bust up or something. No. Perfect play pose. No, your arms weren't being wrapped around the stomach and whatnot. You were just basically bringing him up just like so. You were pretending to powerbomb, but man, Galoob as a 4-inch figure, a little bit bigger than 4 inches because he was a little bit taller, made him more of a little dynamic force for your kid, for your little kid brain. Using that Galoob against the Hasbros was always for decades. If you ever asked me my favorite toy growing up, honestly, when I was a kid, I don't really have a lot of memories of playing with toys. I know of the wrestling figures I had, I played with those. I know around age 5, 6 or so, we started getting some Ninja Turtles. But even then, even having them, I don't really remember playing with them. Not really. I'm sure I did. I just don't have those memories. After that, I mean, my biggest collection in life were Power Rangers. But I never played with my Power Ranger toys. As I got older and older, I still collected them. They were never played with. They were always, if I took them out of the box, bam, I put them on my shelf, they were displayed. Even as someone who was 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, 14, I was technically a collector of Power Ranger toys. And that's all they were. They were collections. They weren't something that, as a fan of the show, and later on, of course, when like your other superhero shows, Masked Rider came out, and VR Troopers, what have you. Yeah, I had maybe a few toys or a couple toys here or there, but we're not talking a lot. wrestling toys, Hasbro's, a couple of Gloobs, they were really the only things I could ever remember from childhood actually playing with. So when I say that Sid Vicious is my George Washington of action figures, it means that I could look at another figure and say, you know what, that figure is 10,000 times better than the Sid Vicious figure. It's still irrelevant, because even if I say that figure is 10,000 times better, I will still say that Sid Vicious is the greatest wrestling figure of all time. It's not a number 1 figure, it's a number 0 figure. It cannot be beat. That's what I mean when I say it's my George Washington. And I know I've explained this in the past, but I'm pretty sure I got a lot of new viewers, a lot of new subscribers that might be wondering, what the heck am I talking about? So just to backtrack, when I say this is my George Washington of action figures, so as a lot of people know, in the 20th century, there were a couple of generals, General Pershing, and for the life of me, I can never remember the second general, but there were 2 generals that were promoted to 5-star general as general of the army, and at that point, as 5-star generals, they outranked George Washington and every other soldier, past or present. So during America's bicentennial in 1976, Congress posthumously promoted George Washington to 5-star general and made it known that he would outrank every soldier, past or present. So when I say that that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my George Washington, I can say 10,000 shows are better than Buffy. It doesn't matter. Buffy will always be my number 1 all-time favorite show regardless. I will always say that this is my George Washington. This is my number 1 favorite. Oddly enough, when I did my layout of my all-time favorite figures, this was my number 2. My Galoob was my number 2 figure. I had Yokozuna Hasbro at number 1. I don't know what it is about this figure. Like, as much as I covet, there's just something very small that just keeps it from being put over the top to finally be able to win. Because he wasn't part of my first tournament. The figure wasn't made yet, but I did have him in my second tournament. I'm like, that's it. Game's over. Bruiser Brody, you're gone. This is my winner. Before the tournament even started, Sid Vicious was going to win that tournament, and it didn't happen. I think he was a semi-finalist. I think he was one of the last 5 standing, if I'm not mistaken, but I can't remember how that played out. But so, I mean, he was very close. Sid Vicious will obviously win this matchup. There's not even a question, but that is a fantastic $1 Million Man figure, and it's one I'm sad to lose this early in the tournament. Next matchup we said was Bruno Sammartino, as he did battle against the referee Stud by Robert Jackson. So this is freaking weird that this is the first time that we're seeing Bruno Sammartino in this tournament. I kind of feel like we would have seen this guy so much earlier. Like, I don't know, 7th video, 14th video, 20th video. I don't know how we made it all the way to episode 37 and we still have original figures haven't been showcased yet. Maybe because of Ron Bass being shown. Maybe that's why I feel like we've already seen this figure. Obviously, I don't know a lot about Bruno Sammartino. He's like your Bob Backlund and your Hulk Hogan. You know, guys that have held titles for an extended period of time. I don't know what his record was, 7 years or 10 years with the championship belt or what have you. So when we talk about guys that have had championships for extended times, 3 years at a time, 5 years at a time, so what have you. Did he have it multiple times? I believe so. I think he was your mega superstar in the 60s, definitely the 70s, and I think partially in the 80s, maybe. I think in the 80s he was definitely a commentator by that time, but I don't remember anything about Bruno Sammartino commentating. Probably way before my time. I didn't know anything about him in the 90s. His son, David Sammartino. Oddly enough, I was watching the first WrestleMania. Now, this was months ago when I started watching WrestleMania 1. And the goal was to actually go back and watch all of the WrestleManias and kind of make videos about them at some point. And I watched WrestleMania 8 for whatever reason. And then I went backwards and I watched WrestleMania 1. And the thing that stood out to me first and foremost, seeing Tito Santana as your first matchup of the tournament of the WrestleMania. I mean, that was weird. El Matador, Tito Santana against Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 8, or Tito Santana against the Enforcer in WrestleMania 1. But I know a lot of people love WrestleMania 1, but having gone back and watched it, most of those matches were completely boring. I think Brutus and I want to say Brutus and David Sammartino, if I'm not mistaken. Junkyard Dog and Greg Valentine had an okay match. The ending was meh with the change of Victor. I think Bruce Beefcake and David Sammartino probably had the most exhilarating match that I saw. Now I only made it through about 45 minutes or so of the video, so I didn't watch the whole thing. But complaints about David Sammartino? I mean, that was my first exposure to him, and I thought he did a fantastic job in ring. So you see this pose right here, right, with the leg forward, the crouched, arms extended and spread apart. You see it with Galoob all the time. Rick Steiner, Ric Flair, in Series 2 with Jimmy Garvin. You see it again with Dustin Rhodes. I'm trying to think what else. I'm looking at the Galoobs right now, and I think that might be it with this particular pose. But a ton of Galoob figures have this respective pose, so it's a very common pose. Hands down, only because the hands are down, it's not as great of a figure because of that. Otherwise, it's bulky, it's got good weight to it, it's got a good grip. Kind of like a Junkyard Dog to an extent, but the grip is a little bit better, I would say, on this. Only slightly. But the arms kind of get in the way, so the grip is affected a little bit. But I would say the grip is a little bit better than Junkyard Dog. Now, if the hands were up, I mean, the positioning, I mean, this I don't mind. It's just that the hands are so low that it affects the playability of it. So it's definitely a usable figure. It's just not one I would say is the most enjoyable. But if you were to throw this figure inside like a Royal Rumble or something, yeah, you could sit there, pick them up every now and then, and play with them, have a good time. I'm not saying this would be like a go-to one-on-one match. You'd sit there for 45 minutes, have yourself a match with, but it's a solid figure nonetheless. Now, I've been saying a year ago, but I don't know if that's accurate. I've been retired, as you guys know, since the end of January 2022, so all of these dates kind of bleed in together. It could have been a year ago, it could have been 8 months ago, I don't remember. But I'm going to say sometime in 2023, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to probably say last summer, 2023 or so. I decided for the first time that I was going to attempt to do my own custom figure, because I had a pretty beat up Big John Studd figure, right? Pretty messed up, and I'm like, you know what? I want to referee Big John Studd figure, and I figured that this is going to be a really easy figure to customize. So I went ahead and I customized the black pants with black shoes. And it looked really beautiful. I mean, I at least did that part right. white shirt, but I couldn't get the darn lines on straight. Like, I was cutting holes in the paper, and I was kind of trying to use that as like a stencil to make the black lines. It's like, oh man, this is really shitty. My first time trying to customize an LJN, and it came out horribly. I'm like, nah, forget this. I want a real freaking authentic LJN Big John stud. So I ended up sending it to Rob Jackson. I'm like, bud, can you please salvage this? Save my figure. He made some upgrades. I mean, he painted the boots back to red and black or red. I mean, I probably should have left them red because at least it gives you that dual color. So maybe that was the better idea. And I don't remember if Big John Studd had black boots or red boots when he was doing the refereeing. But man, look at this. It actually looks like a white shirt. What I did, the white paint that I put on his body, I don't know what the heck that was. And the lines here, forget it. This is what a real artist looks like. And I should have taken pictures of what my crap looked like before. Now, I actually did get that other referee. I think they used like a Hillbilly Jim bottom. So it's the Big John Studd torso on a Hillbilly Jim bottom. So I do have 2 referee Big John Studd figures. The great thing is 2 referee studs plus the original Big John Studd. Plus you can even throw in that Kane figure taken from a Big John Studd figure. Now, when I look at that Kane, it's not Big John Studd, it's Kane, right? But it's still 4 figures essentially with. So imagine you get one of the referee studs versus original stud. I don't know how I'm going to choose, because if the time comes, it's going to be really hard to put an original or put a custom over an original, because I do value originality, but I also value differentiation, color schemes, uniqueness. So imagine this one went up against his original variant. I don't know. And also, with my mindset, I'm so used to seeing the original Series 1 Big John Studd in the semifinals or finals every single tournament. So, like, if this one were to beat him, like, that would change everything. That would throw this whole tournament through a loop. So, I don't know. I don't know how I would choose. Bruno Sammartino is a really good figure. I think one that deserves at least a second go around, but he had to face the right challenger, and in this battle, he was not going to defeat Big John Studd. And the reason I kept classifying Big John Studd as my favorite LJN is basically he is very close. Not identical, but it's still very close to mimicking that of Sid Vicious. So, I mean, you can understand why I had a certain appreciation for the stud figure overall. Next battle is going to feature Hogan White versus Green $1 Million Man. So original white shirt Hogan, Series 5. And we're going to start with the $1 Million Man again. From Ram Treasures, I've made multiple videos over the course of 2022 and 2023. And a lot of them surrounded, my favorite Ram Treasure figures, and they were in order. So, like, at one point, Ram Treasures may have had, like, 13 figures. And then I got it up to, like, once they had... I tried to do, like, every 5 figures, but I think at one point I was up to, like, 19. So I did, the top 19 figures that they had. And then at one point, I think they were like at 30 figures or 27 figures or whatever that number was. But at that point, that video had already gone like almost an hour. So I haven't really made a video like that since. Now the figures are like exceed 60. So if I wanted to do a my favorite Ram Treasures figure, not a tournament again, but put them in order of preference, I'd have to basically break that down into about 3 to 5 videos. And let's say top 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30 or something like that. So maybe even more than 5 videos, maybe 6 videos at least, or 7, because it's over 60 figures. But this one was an interesting one. I've said I've always loved this one and coveted this one because of the color. And I bought this in November of 2021. Now, either at the end of November 2021 or early December 2021, but I'm going to say November. And again, around that time frame, I was still new-ish to collecting LJNs. I have not been collecting LJNs very long, maybe a couple of months, if that. So I didn't know a whole lot about the figures, the different figures that were out, how many figures or what they look like, etc. So when I talk about that Hulk Hogan that I got from Andrew Sable, Move Over Swanson, which was a Series 1 Hogan, and he had blue trunks with blue boots, white knee pads, the white painted shirt, or white painted skin to look like a shirt, made in America, or whatever it said, right? When I first saw that figure, I thought, okay, I thought maybe that was this figure. At that time, I didn't know a whole lot about LJN, so... And it didn't cost a lot. Or maybe I did know it was a custom. I don't know. I don't really remember. It's been a few years. But when I saw this, I knew 2 things. One, I did not have a $1 Million Man. And so when I saw this on Ram Treasures page for $58, I'm like, mint condition figure, $58? Why the heck not? And it would remind me of my Series 2 Hasbro. Now, I actually went on deployment before I ever got this figure in the mail, so I didn't get this figure until actually I came back from Iraq. By that time, I had a bunch of boxes that had come in from Ram Treasures that I had purchased while I was on deployment. So, like Big Boss Man and Haku, and I can't remember what else, but I would assume other Series 6 figures that I purchased from Ram Treasures had come in along with other stuff that I bought while I was gone. So, I was able to go through all these boxes. It was like Christmas for me. I think if I had known better, I probably would have gotten this in black, or maybe I would have stuck with green. I don't know. I honestly, if I went back in time and if I knew better, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, nowadays I'm glad that I got it in green because I got an original black. So why would I need another black, especially since I got additional black customs? But this figure, when I was talking about Ram Treasure figures and how I would rate them, you know, this is my number 1 favorite, 2nd favorite, 3rd favorite, etc. This always rated very high. This was always like, you know, a top 10 figure for me. And out of 13, maybe this was like number 7. Out of 19 figures, maybe number 9. Out of 25, maybe it would go to like number 11, number 12, something like that. Out of 30 figures, then it finally made its furthest decline. Or again, I have to look at my notes. I don't know exactly how it went, but I think it went something like, it dropped from 7 to 8 to 9 or something like that, with more and more figures, and you're adding like every 5 figures. I was doing a new video, so it was only going up like 1 spot, so you're not talking like massive changes. But by the time I got to like 30 figures, it went from like number 9 favorite to like number 21 favorite. No other figure had any type of drop or improvement by such a large amount. Well, what? And so all these figures that I was always rating much lower than this figure was suddenly rating so much higher. I think what eventually got me was I started paying attention, like really focusing, zeroing in on the face. The face and the hands. I'm like looking at the rubber and I'm like, that's not LJN rubber, essentially. I kind of call it like fake rubber. I don't know what kind of rubber it is. Like I said, the quality of rubber that Random Treasure used to use at the very early stages of their making of their LJN figures compared to the quality they use nowadays, it's a huge difference. And that's exactly what it should be, man. I talked about Hasbro. First and second series figures, great figures, but nowhere near the elite level of figures or quality of figures that compare to Series 3 onward. Any of these other companies you deal with, the first and second series are usually trying to see what you're coming up with, how to create the figures, what kind of molds, how to put the body parts together and everything. And so they're learning from their mistakes, essentially. So I still covet the figure, most definitely. It's still a $1 Million Man figure. It's still very enjoyable. It just doesn't rate as high as I once placed it. But he goes up against Series 5 Hogan. Yes, I do place the Series 5 Hogans, both white and red shirt, in my top 20. Let's say 18A, 18B. Because I'm not going to put them 18, 19, because that eliminates a roster spot for another figure in the top 20. Do I consider it to be a playable figure? Not really. Outside of look, outside of character, outside of display, that's really all it has going for it. Now, it is a much thicker figure than what you get from Series 1, which I don't understand why they make that figure so stupid thin. If they made the figure like this thick, I think that Series 1 figure would be even more splendid. But this figure is in the top 20 favorites because of its display purposes. But as a playable figure, it's not. $1 Million Man is much more enjoyable from a play standpoint. But could I possibly put him over a Hogan? I don't know where I'd put the $1 Million Man figure in general. I would probably say in the top 40 possibly, but until I ever stop being lazy and come back down here and actually put these figures in order, you continue on 21 through 30, 31 through 40, etc. I'm only estimating where they might be. I might say, I don't know. I could say Don Morocco is a number 45 figure. And when I do my layout, he could be number 33. Or I do my layout and he could be number 61. So you're only giving your best guess. Value of the figure should never play a role. It's okay to use nostalgia and what that character means to you to help you get you over the hump to make a determining factor, but value really shouldn't play any determining factor. But it's hard not to put value on these figures. But yes, I am going to go with the Series 5 Hogan over the $1 Million Man. And last matchup is going to feature George Steele versus Custom Hawk. And we will start with the Hawk figure. Now, Hawk and Animal, I got them both from the same seller, and I paid on auction. I got them for like $75. And for a while, I was mad at Ram Treasures. Not really. Well, no, that's not fair. I don't want to say mad at Ram Treasures, but kind of mad at myself too, I guess. Because not too long before I got these for $75, you pay about $400 from Ram Treasures for their figures, and I actually thought that the ones I got from the random seller on eBay were better figures. I definitely like the Hawk better, but I like Hawk better because of play pose. But Ram Treasures Hawk with the freaking Nikolai Volkov, hand fighting pose is good too. So I don't really have an issue with that. The one thing I kind of laughed at with this figure, what I've always laughed at about this figure, there is a reason why these figures only sold for $75 on auction. I could have always glued this down, but I never did because I always enjoyed being able to look at the inside and kind of see how like customizers are, how they're able to like put the heads on the figures and whatnot. But we're looking at the shelf, you're looking at like so. So you're not even noticing that the head comes off or anything like that. And I'm not saying, when I look at value, Animal for both company or from both figures, relatively the same. Design relatively the same. This figure, the design, the graphics are extremely large in comparison to what Ram Treasures had. That helps it stand out more. Ram Treasures, I think they do a far superior design on the boots, and yeah, with their smaller design, I think they do a better job on the boots. All in all, Ram Treasures, their Legion of Doom is better. I mean, I still say that this pose is what makes this one of the better figures for that single purpose, but that's about it. If you weren't so offended by the loose head or whatnot, this has a chance to go 3 rounds or more. I mean, it wouldn't win this tournament, but I mean, it could do some. It could make a nice run. Not a fantastic run, but like I said, 3 rounds. It's adequate. I mean, once you get to round 4, you're basically among the absolute elite figures. But going up against George Steele. George Steele is a so-so figure. Here's the thing. If you like the King Kong Bundy figure, and for me, I love the King Kong Bundy figure. So you think if King Kong Bundy and George Steele are relatively the same figure, and George Steele, his arms are just out a little bit wider, more ET-ish than King Kong Bundy, but still, they're relatively the exact same figure in that respect. Why would I love Bundy but not love George Steele? It's a fine figure. It looks quality. The skin tags, I would have really loved if they actually colored these in and made it look like actual hair. Because to me, it looks like he just has like an ape body or something. But the arms down, same thing with Bundy. It just makes it an impossible figure to play. But Bundy, you make use out of. You really can't make a lot of use out of George Steele. I didn't watch George Steele growing up. I don't know if I even know who George Steele was. And I've said it before. I would argue that probably half, or at least close to half, of the figures from the LJN line, I didn't even know who they were before I started collecting LJN. I mean, Series 1, I can look at and say everyone from Series 1, I knew who all of Series 1 characters were. Series 2, maybe I did know. Like, I would probably know of the name George Steele. I probably would know the name Paul Orndorff if you said it to me. But, like, I probably wouldn't be able to pick them out of a lineup, at least at that time, before I started collecting. I mean, nowadays, of course. But like, Freddie Blassie, I didn't know anything about. Corporal Kirchner, Dynamite Kid, Don Morocco, SD Jones. Terry Funk, I'm not sure about. Maybe I would have heard the name, I'm not sure. Billy Jack Haynes, Adrian Adonis. The Killer Bees, I knew their name, but I didn't know their individual names. Jim Brunzell, B. Brown Blair, so maybe I could throw them on that list. Bob Orton, maybe, I don't know. I think I would have known Hercules. Yeah, I definitely would have known Hercules. Didn't know who Harley Race was. Outback Jack, Ted Arcidi, Ken Patera, Slick. Didn't know him. Didn't know Johnny Valiant. I mean, I knew who Akeem was, but if you told me One Man Gang, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. Haku. I don't know if I would have known Haku. Maybe. Okay, so maybe that's not half. Maybe that's maybe 20%, 25% maybe. So I actually knew a whole lot more of these characters than I give myself credit. But I've said before, one of the things why I don't see myself ever like sitting down, like actually making my own wrestling matches, even though I feel like even as a grown ass man, I could still enjoy it and have a lot of fun with it. I don't have the memories I did as a kid. Like I didn't sit down and watch. Like I would sit down and watch wrestling every week, right? I would know how they talked on the mic. I would know how they wrestled in the ring. I would know their finishers and their different techniques and skills and stuff like that. So I would know how to wrestle their figures when I was a kid. I haven't watched wrestling in well over 25 years. 26 years, 27, something like that. So let's say 25 years, call it a day. So if I were to sit down and try to wrestle these guys, I'd have absolutely no freaking clue what their finishers are, what certain holds and takedowns and finishers are called. Other than throwing body slams and punches and clotheslines and drop kicks and stuff, everybody would basically be doing the same stuff. So it would be hard for me to sit there and do an actual wrestling match because I don't know, because I want to keep it as legitimate and realistic as possible. You know what's funny? I thought this would have been a shoe-in where Huck would have been a guaranteed victor in this matchup. But just something about this figure now, I just feel like just holding the figure now, I really like George Steele. I do. I think he's got a solid figure. I just wish that the arms were better. Now that George Steele with the hands up, with the shirt on, that George Steele can do some damage in this tournament. Is this one going to be more than a second rounder? Probably not. This one probably could have made it more than 2 or 3 rounds, but I'm going to keep George Steele in there because at least this one is a legitimate figure, where this one, that right there kills me. I don't want to deal with that again. So, for the sake of this matchup, George Steele is going to defeat Hawk. And at almost an hour of filming, Jesus Christ, that is a long time. I am going to end the video here, guys, because man, this was draining. This was a long video, guys. I do not do a good time with time management. I'm sorry. I know the goal was when I first started to try to keep these to. I wanted 20 minutes. I wanted 15 to 20 minute videos. Realistically, if I could keep them hovering around 30, I was good. I can't do it. I'm nowhere close to that. So, I think if I was putting these videos out once a week, once every 5 days, it'd be fine. Because it'd be like watching a show on TV. You're watching a 45-minute episode, an hour episode, it'd be okay. But I know if you're watching a 40-minute to an hour episode every single day of the week, it can be time-consuming and straining on viewers. So I do apologize for that. So for those of you who do take the time out of your day to watch my videos. Trust me when I say that it is definitely appreciated. It means the world to me. So, with that being said, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the comments, and see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.